Sandy Price.
Could you talk a little louder, please?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I will. So if you would, stand with me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I feel like I should say stop. Okay, first item on the agenda, civil tort payment.
Okay, so there's some discrepancy on what is actually owed to the attorney. The first thing he submitted back in July states $7,046.45. He sent me the invoices, but they don't total that amount. They total, here, I have it written down.
Excuse me.
They total $55,829.
$5,500.
$5,829.
5,000.
Oh no, 5,829.
That would be a mistake I would make.
And then he's just submitted something to the court today that's for a different amount. So I don't know what the amount actually is. I've reached out to the lady that sent me the invoices. She is confirming this $5,829. But I kinda have a problem if the court's gonna order more money to be paid than what we've been are going to end up paying.
I wonder, well, and I don't know, but I'm just speculating. I know there's another hearing on that matter. I wonder if he's including an estimated labor for that particular hearing and mailings. Because I thought about that this morning when he told me that he was trying to contact them to serve them about this other hearing. I thought, okay, he's already given us a bill, so are we gonna be responsible for any
I
additional?
don't know what other hearing would be set because the case has been dismissed.
It has, but the matter of
The-
expenses, that's what the hearing's about.
Okay,
So
because
they'll
he's
have-
not, and that's the other, he's not asked for a hearing. He's just sent in a motion to have the fees.
He said something that Judge Diener had requested some information, so
Okay,
that's.
so
what-
at this point, I don't know what the amount
Right.
is.
I don't think we can pay it until it's completely done.
I did go ahead, at the last council meeting, and I did, notify them that there would be an additional appropriation, being filed because we only have 4,000 in the account. So, at the end of that meeting, I met with the auditor, and I went ahead and put the appropriations in so we could get them advertised, and I did it at the highest amount that we had. They said I can always use less, but I can't do more, so I went ahead and did that on behalf of the board. Otherwise, it was gonna be, do you remember, Debbie, was it gonna be October before I could put in the next appropriation or get the money? Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember. I'm not sure what the question is, but I do remember all of it, so tell me again.
If I didn't put in the appropriation last week,
Yes,
then it was gonna be October before we would get that money.
the additional appropriation, yes.
Okay, and I didn't think we wanted to wait that long to pay the attorney, so,
I think he's
I won't
aware
pay
that it may
anything.
take that long.
right, I mean, I'm obviously I'm not gonna pay anything, send in a claim until we've met again and we've confirmed what the amount is.
Wait a minute, you have a September meeting coming up. And she,
But I think wasn't Beth gonna be gone? So
she advertised the,
Right, but if I didn't do it that day, it was gonna prolong it.
that's
why I went ahead
right,
and
that's
did
right,
it.
yeah. She's already advertised it, it's in line for
Okay.
September meeting.
Okay,
So
that's-
just as a taxpayer, I'm curious, so So we pay out the 7,500 or whatever.
Whatever-
So
whatever it's
we
for.
pay that out.
Yes.
The judge orders them to pay that back, and it comes back. We deplete our budget, 4,000. Then the additional, we'll say 4,000 appropriation that we do or do not use to complete.
Right.
So what happens with the money that comes back?
If, once the, are you talking the plaintiffs?
Correct. So
Okay, so once they start paying that amount back in, it'll just be it'll go right back into, I believe, it'll go,
General fund.
yeah, that's what I was
So
gonna say.
it doesn't
It'll
go back
into
to our
the general.
budget? Okay, that's
No.
my question.
No, well, yeah, I knew it wouldn't go back to our budget, but I mean, it'll go into the general fund, and it's a,
That's really all
it'll
I
be
had.
considered restitution at that point, since we've already paid it.
Okay.
And the others are applying for the same thing.
Now, our new budget starts in September anyway.
No,
No,
we're
first of the
counted.
year.
January.
Okay, all right.
So we will be,
The new budget's just due.
we will be out
Gotcha.
of,
Okay.
once we pay this, that
And
line
that's kind
item.
of the other.
That line item is zeroed, and I have asked for more in the budget for next year,
Okay.
in case something else were. to come up.
Okay. Is that all that you had on that? Just
Yes.
that we're gonna have to wait until we get a final bill. So, and as I'm all aware, because I hear it all the time, that sometimes attorneys just don't get paid real quick.
Yeah,
So, and that's the nature of business. Okay, are we done with that one?
yes.
Okay, moving on to general election information.
Okay, I have reached out to the parties that we do the, Saturday voting on. I've confirmed all but two.
And the same
I'm waiting to hear
locations.
from, same, everything's the same, I just, the location dates might have changed from the primary to the general. They may not be the first Saturday, they may be the second.
Oh, okay.
But I have not heard back from, Liberty Township, trustee, and I have not heard back, from the gentleman from Burlington. But everyone else is confirmed, election day, all of the sites for the election day have been confirmed.
Do you anticipate a problem with Burlington, because I know they kind of.
No, I've been, in extensive conversations with him. I'm gonna draw up an actual, like we had talked,
Right,
layout,
so that they know exactly.
so that they know exactly where they're going. And it should not be a problem moving forward. I would actually prefer to be back where we were for the Saturday voting anyway.
Back closer to the door.
You have a more of a weave around if there's a lot of people voting and it's raining outside.
The biggest issue there is just power.
Right.
There's a lot of power up by the state, but not
Yep.
much by the door.
And I'm reducing some of the locations machine-wise. It's more of an in-house keeping. It's difficult to get machines for the early setup, the early voting and election day. You have to change certain things on them. And then it goofs them up because it doesn't have their information at the top.
Right,
So I'm trying to get it to where
so then you're not scrambling between Saturday and Monday
Right.
night.
everything is done for Monday will be done.
Okay,
Saturday's equipment that comes back will not be going anywhere. It'll be already, so I have enough machines to do that if I reduce 3 sites by 1 machine.
during a presidential election, though, that's.
That will be, we'll figure something else out on that level, but for this one, I think 5 machines, is sufficient at most of the locations.
Okay.
I'm leaving the big ones with 6, but the other ones I'm gonna reduce down to,
Like Flora,
I'm leaving Flora and the courthouse with 6,
Flora
And I'm gonna-
always seems to be knocked
and I'm
out.
gonna pull, Camden, Yeoman, and Burlington, I'm gonna pull 1. And those will be set aside for our early vote.
And I think we discussed this before, but since we were talking about Flora, talk with the party chairs to make sure that we have experienced people in Florida, because it is such a busy site.
Yeah. That was the next thing on,
Okay.
kind of like on the lines of that. I'm gonna, send notification out to both party chairs. They have a certain deadline to get me their poll workers, but they always kind of push it to the line to when they, Roger didn't. Roger always got them to me early, I will say that, but in the primary.
It's got harder and harder
Yeah.
over the years to do.
Yeah.
I mean, at one time it was easy, now it's harder.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder
A
now.
little bit harder now.
Hopefully next year it'll be easier. I've increased the pay, in my budget, to actually,
The last election was Tom's first time doing it, right?
right,
So,
yeah. So it was just a little slower, so I'm gonna encourage them to get me the stuff quicker.
How much is it paying for workers?
Right now, for this election,
This election, yeah.
it's 180 for the inspector, 150 for the Democrat judge, and then everyone else is 125. And don't quote me on what I put in the budget, but it's a substantial, increase. I wanna say it's maybe $75 across the board increase. But I'm including their, election pay, or, election meals into their pay.
right.
And then so moving after this election, moving into next elections, each individual person is responsible for their own food. They can bring something, they can have someone bring it in, that way we don't have any health issues. Yeah, whatever they wanna do, yep. So those with health issues aren't at the mercy of an inspector. And they have dietary needs, they need to eat, so.
Anything else on that? Okay, let's move on to election equipment storage.
Okay, I know we've talked in the past about, moving the storage from the not so good storage down in the basement into the museum. All the commissioners, have the quote to build a caged-in area in
What is that amount?
the, $4,456.57.
I think that's less than what you initially thought.
Yeah, I thought, I actually increased the size from the original one that I put in, because 2 out of the 3 commissioners said, build it bigger than what you think you need. So, I made it bigger than what I thought I would ever need. And that's to do all the work. It's not been approved yet, but I just wanted to let you know that we're kind of
Where's
moving.
this supposed to be at? Where are you gonna put it
It's
at?
down in the museum in the north,
When you say museum, you say,
where we vote.
where you vote, okay.
It'll be in the northeast corner, where you've got the matching staircases that come up, but the one that's been shut off for years and years and years. So that's the area that it's gonna be in. It won't, inhibit any voting. Won't have to move any of how we set it up down there.
Because we keep equipment in that same space, during the election anyways.
During the election, yeah. There does have to be a monitoring system on the cage itself. It's gonna be positioned in such a way that it's not a fisheye, so it's only gonna be directed right at that door.
So what kind of materials, is this like the cage materials that are?
It's exactly what's in the basement now, it's the same company. The only difference is we will have privacy panels on 2 of the sides. So you can't, you can go up there and still look in, but it's gonna shield it a little bit, so it's not.
The casual looker
Right.
doesn't say, hey, there's. the-
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to walk up to it and look through it. And the other 2 sides are on walls, so we didn't need them. And it will have a top. That was one of the specifications that I did not know if it was required, but it is required, so.
It'd be a little difficult to pick up one of those DS200s.
And get it up over,
Yeah,
but you could get down into it, that was the thing, so. Again, I'm waiting, there's only been 1 commissioners meeting since I received that quote. And,
time frame, like when they approve it. So like we bring the equipment up for this general election.
I'm hoping this
Is
will
it
be the last
possible?
time we bring it up.
So we bring it up and then we just put it on the page hopefully.
I'm hoping that it will be, Total Fence told me it would be a 2 to 3 day process,
In all fairness, when I say we, I mean you.
and my staff. Any other volunteers that come and wanna help, because it's a 6-hour process to get everything up, so. Okay,
Good.
Yep.
So I wanted to add campaign finance reports after Ms. Lowe brought up a question about the finance reports before. I came in and looked at all sheriff's finance reports, and all 3 of them had errors. The data was all there, it was just in the wrong place. They grouped all the companies, corporations, individuals, all in the same schedule, and each, and I forgot to bring that, but there's a schedule for each group. So there's a schedule for individuals, there's a schedule for businesses, there's a schedule for nonprofits, there's a schedule for corporations. So in my looking at this, I'm thinking, these are not professional politicians. They don't have huge staffs. They don't hire CPAs to do their finance reports. So I took the time to learn it. All the information is on the back. If you read the directions on the back, it's all there. But initially I was thinking, we should do a training. And I thought, I've already learned this stuff, I'll do the training. I know that will be met by some resistance and it may not look good, so rather than that, I've reached out to Lee Stevens. He was the vice president of Regions Bank and the branch manager for Delphi. He has since resigned to be full-time pastor here in Delphi, which should add some credibility.
I'm sorry, what was his name?
Lee Stevens,
STEV or PH?
PhD.
Thank you.
He has a degree in finance and business, so he's more than qualified to look through, I've asked him, I'm not gonna give you any information, just look through everything and figure out the right way to fill out the report. And then I asked him if he was willing to do a class, and he said it could be up to 2 classes a year. I would love to make it mandatory, but I don't think we have the authority to make it mandatory, but just for the candidates to come in, learn the proper way, or even their treasurer to come in and learn the proper way to fill it out. That'll make it easier on us, as those reports come in. For the most part, they should be correct because they've had the training. So, just wanted to bring it up and get some feedback, see what you guys thought of it.
So I'm trying to make sure I got everything just,
Okay. So do you see a problem with that, Roger?
I'd have to think about it, I don't know.
We're not gonna make a decision today, but I just wanted to kind of put it in everybody's head.
Yeah, this is something that needs a little study, I mean, if there's any problems with that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right offhand, I can't see anything wrong,
I
but
think
there
our
may
goal-
be. I don't know.
I think our goal for finance report should be, we're looking for stuff that is blatantly, somebody is trying to pull a fast one, trying to do something wrong. We shouldn't just be looking for, I'll give you an example. One report, you have to tick a box if there was a large contribution of over $1,000 or $1,000 more. Well, this candidate or their treasurer didn't tick that box. Do we make the entire report defective and make them resubmit because they didn't check the box? So I think our goal, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, I'm just saying, I think our goal should be, let's make sure that corporations aren't donating more than $2,500, and that the numbers add up. Which we've had that issue, where the numbers on one page, if you add all those up, they don't meet the summary sheet. And so, that's the kind of stuff I think we should be looking for. We can nitpick any report and find something. And in fact, like I said, when you nitpick, I nitpicked all three of those reports, and I found the errors, minor errors. Not financial errors, nothing that looked like they were trying to pull a fast one or anything, just a mistake, they didn't fill it out right. So, but I think if we're able to provide some kind of a training class, just to give them that information, that it would be helpful to them, obviously, and especially to us as a board.
My only concern with that is, the Indiana Election Board will tell you, we are not the filing police. We're not, we're to take whatever they give us, in however fashion they give it to us. So, I'm still gonna get asked all those questions. You know, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? You know, and if I give you the help, and then you don't ask, and then you fill it out wrong, and you talk with him and say, well, she told me this is what I was supposed to do. Well, she didn't tell me that, then I'm in trouble.
Well, I'm not
Because I
saying-
didn't offer the same help to both. But, no, I'm saying if the ones that think that they've got it filled out right, well, every single person that files them will ask us, is this right? Have I missed anything? Is this where it needs to go? Well, it's not my,
It'd be nice to have some training, he's a candidate, it'd be nice to have some training.
right, it would have to be
But I'm not-
optional.
But I'm not sure that we are the ones that do the training. I mean,
Right.
maybe some other outside source or something that, I'd kind of leave it up to the candidate to.
Educate themselves.
I mean, they're
running-
responsible.
They're responsible for what they're turning in.
But it'd be nice to have some training, but I don't know that it's our responsibility to
I would agree with that.
train them. I don't know.
Because if one doesn't attend, then they're
I
gonna
think-
cry foul.
I think we're still in the same boat either way. Only I guess what I'm getting at is if we make it easier, we would have fewer mistakes if there was that training.
I suggest that you video a training, and I would be happy to do it if you didn't find somebody else or something. And you can put it on YouTube, as you all know. We could probably figure out how to put it on a flash drive and hand out flash drives, or they, if they want. I agree that training is really necessary. I don't know who should do it. I know you guys are the election board, and you can talk about, and it doesn't have to be one thing in the video. I mean, you can talk about what you look for in the campaign finance report,
Right.
that kind of thing. And then your person could talk about, what that means, what those, I've never filled them out, so I don't know.
Well, the election division does put out some videos, but I've not found one on finance reports.
Oh.
And they're old.
Oh.
Like really old. So they need to be updated.
Well, I just, it's always good to have it on video.
Yeah.
And if you can transfer it to, a flash drive or a CD and I'm sure somebody can do that from whatever I would video.
Then they're not taking their time out at a specific time.
That's right. And you only have to do it once.
Right.
You only have to do it once. Yeah. I know, I'm sounding like a preacher there. And
So going on that theory, if we went that theory, when they're filling out to run, do we have them sign off that they've received that, so that that's their,
Well, we could either put it on a flash drive or just hand them a card and saying, here's a training video for
Okay,
finance report.
okay.
It's at issue 2 link, and it's up to you. If you feel like you need the training, it's highly recommended.
yeah, cause I'm thinking that's gonna get expensive.
And it's not to say that if you go to the training, we're gonna go easier on you, or if you go to the training, you should know better, so we're gonna go tougher on you. It's just
Public
trying to
information.
provide the information
Yeah.
and help them out.
And that would be my reason for offering to do it, because it's just information.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything on that? Moving on. Old business, election board complaint and signature.
Okay, so I just received another email this morning at 9:56 a.m. It says, please be advised that in response to a, is it FIOA? Say that.
Oh,
What?
FIOA? F-O-I-A?
She had-
Freedom of Information
Yeah, how do you
request.
say it?
FOIA
FOIA.
is the way they say it. I say
I
the
was like,
words, yeah.
I know there's a way to say it, but I'm
Yeah.
not saying it right. Okay, in response to a FOIA, whatever you said,
Yeah.
which was sent to Andrew Sandora. He copied more than one email to the election board attorney. This attorney was hired to defend a lawsuit filed against the county. The attorney was not, according to our information, hired or paid to address issues outside of that suit. It raises the question if other county FOIAs were also addressed through the election board attorneys. There are two very separate transactions at the issue, as the issue was Mr. Sandora's use of a personal email for county business. We believe there may have been fraud on the attorney fees. In addition, we were anonymously sent the following screenshot from a video with date and timestamp of Deputy Liggett campaigning at a county facility in uniform. In addition, a county official may have attempted to purchase this video and equipment with the intent to destroy evidence, all of which may prompt further, more serious litigation. And that was sent from Ms. Wright, who filed the initial complaint. So,
So, I think Roger wasn't privy to that conversation, but we had said that we were hiring an attorney to guide us through the process
of the civil tort.
of the tort and to guide us through how to handle this. And I want to say that I appreciate the fact that you did find Mr. Munden, because he brought, unlike the other attorney that I had recommended, Mr. Munden, being on an election board, brought more information. So I think he was a good choice. So if the claim is that the FOIA request was meant for me personally, I'm not subject to a FOIA request as an individual. As a county employee or board member, yes. And if there are legal fees associated with that, then we are required. The argument to whether those fees should be included in the fees for the tort should be addressed in that meeting or the hearing that they're trying to set up with her. So I'm not really sure what we're gonna do with this today. And it sounds like this complaint, again, is a criminal complaint. And it's outside the purview. Mr. Munden explained to us that we don't have the authority to investigate, prosecute, whatever, criminal complaints, and that's what this would be. I think as what he said, our authority mainly is around financial reports. That's not to say that if on election day, someone calls in a complaint and says, hey, I'm just gonna use their name because it happened. The Browns are out there pounding people at the courthouse, and they're within 50 feet of they're in the chute. And for those that don't know what the chute, this happened while Callie was.
So they were by the staircase
Well, I'll
going
get-
down?
No, I'll get there. So, that was the complaint. The investigation was, us as a board, we said, well, they can't do that. I said, I'll go down and look and see where they're at. I said, surely, Bill Brown has been doing this long enough, he knows that he can't do that. I went down, I investigated. The extent of the investigation was, I looked, I saw that they were way outside of the 50 feet range. I went over and told them that there was a complaint. Said, I apologize, I just came to see where you were. That was the investigation. Came back reported. We took no action because there was no action to take. So, when there's something like that that's happening on election day, then certainly our job is to maintain the integrity of the election process. So if something is happening at the moment, and we have the ability to go down and talk to them. Now, if I'd gone down and talked to Bill Brown and Ethan and Angie, and they were in the chute, and I asked them to leave, and they refused, call law enforcement and have them removed, we would refer that to the prosecutor's office for prosecution. We couldn't do anything to prosecute them, but I think we have limited investigative authority in those cases. So, I'm not saying nothing should be done about this, but I think this is one of those things that needs to be referred to the prosecutor's office. So, do you have anything more?
So is that what you are,
No, we'll get there, I'm just
Okay.
saying, in response to what you brought to
Okay.
us. So after our discussion with Mr. Munden, and again, what our authority is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I gathered this from what his conversations were, not only when we met as a group, but just when I talked to him on the phone. We have what I deem to be three possible directions to take. One, we can take no action. Again, these items were not brought to us while they were happening. It was after the fact. So according to Mr. Munden, we have no authority to take any action. I don't think that would satisfy anyone. But I'm just gonna read these and then we'll discuss it and make a decision. We can have a hearing and gather more additional information. So again, we could do that. But what purpose does it serve? Because we don't have any authority to do anything with the additional information other than turn it over and refer it to the prosecutors as a third option. I think you can gather that we've had 8 different attorneys and a judge look at this, and they didn't see anything. But I don't think personally, I don't think we can take no action. It's some serious allegations. Some of the allegations are federal matters, and we've been told that they filed with the appropriate federal board to have that investigated. I have no idea. I've not heard whether that's going forward or if it even happened. They also have the ability to, if the local prosecutor chooses not to do anything with it, they can go to the state's attorney general and bring it to them, to their, or to his office. But personally, I don't see anything that we can do. Not according to what Mr. Munden instructed. And a lot of that was in the process of the backup to the tort. We had, initially he said, we're gonna make a motion to dismiss because they aren't from Indiana, they don't have a right to bring a tort against us because they have no right to, I forget the term we used. Anyway, they just didn't have, sorry?
Legal standing.
Exactly, thank you. They have no legal standing because they're not residents. So he said, but if the judge rejects that motion, then we need to defend the tort. And so there was a discussion on what we can do as a board, what we can't do as a board. And these things were brought up. That, again, as a board, our main duty is over finance reports, running the election, making sure that things are done proper on election day or during early voting, etc. And again, we can address issues, but we have no authority to levy any jail time or anything like that. So it would have to be referred to the prosecutor because it's a criminal matter. And I believe, not saying that any of this really did happen, not saying that it didn't, but it's not our decision. And I know initially we talked that we would probably want to send this to the state police. That is not the proper way to do it. We didn't want the local prosecutor, but that's what he was elected to do. So, one of I believe, one of the people in the complaint is related to the prosecutor, so he would have grounds for a conflict of interest, and he could refer it to a special prosecutor, but that's totally up to him. That's not our call.
I believe doing nothing is not the correct thing to do. I also agree that turning everything over at this point to the prosecutor is not the right thing to do. Even if we can't do anything as far as making a determination, I think it's our duty to get the information that we can gather and then decide at that point, is there enough there that we think that it needs to be sent to the prosecutor? That's my opinion.
I guess
Yeah.
my opinion is that we have enough information. They provided exhibits and all that information. Now, it's gonna require somebody with the skill to investigate, to actually do the investigation. And we are not equipped for that. We've just discussed this in the past. So, again, I think it's a futile waste of time for us to have a hearing, call 40 people in. Because it's not just Tony Lee. There are 37 people on that list. There are 2 companies and a government entity on the list. So, it just seems like a big waste of time to call them in, only to get information to hand it over to the prosecutor.
So you believe the information that we have now is sufficient with even the additional that we received today?
I think well, this has gotta be completely different, because this is a part of the original complaint. And again,
I don't know when was that original complaint filed, because it was all about campaigning on.
so if this is additional information on the original complaint, we're not to them. That would be brought up in a hearing, but if we're not gonna have a hearing, we could, I'm not opposed to adding this as when we send it to the prosecutor. But I really think that he has an investigator on staff, full-time, that could look over all this. He could go question, Mr. Munden made the comment to me, if I was the sheriff, and an entity like the election board came and started questioning my officers with no authority, he wouldn't even let him in. He said, I wouldn't let you in the door. He said, because you have no authority to do it. Do you have any- I know you're in a spot because
Well,
you're you're just filling in.
The only information I have is like hearsay, I mean,
Right.
that people have mentioned to me about different things. But, I like that. If you got enough information, I would say turn it over to the prosecutor and let them investigate. I mean, like you said, I don't know that we can do anything here. But something needs to be done. It needs to be kinds need to be settled, right or wrong. I mean,
Right.
if you're guilty, you're guilty. If you're innocent, you're innocent. Everybody wants to know. So, and if, if I was accused of something, I'd wanna know, I'd want, that I had a chance to defend myself.
Correct.
I wouldn't want just to be out there in the county about what's going on. It's kinda hearsay. Everybody's talking about it.
Well, and that's
It needs to be settled.
exactly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're getting at, and what I would refer that to, consider that as maintaining the integrity of the election. Because, as you said, if it's just hearsay, if it's just out there and about, and then we have a hearing and it's just a bunch of, he said, she said, and we're not judges. So then it's out there and about, and so then the public is supposed to decide whether what's true and what's not, because
That's
an
not-
investigation could take a long time.
Yeah.
So, and are we doing the election process justice by helping to propagate something that may not even be true? Or to hinder prosecution of something that is true? The longer it delays, the less, I mean, they say when a murder happens, within 48 hours, the leads start going old, or getting old, and the data gets harder to find, or the information gets harder to find. We're way past 48 hours, obviously. So I think the sooner we can get this in the hands of the prosecutor. And Steve, I mean, everybody knows Steve, he's a great investigator, he's very tech savvy. In some cases, as far as firewalls and stuff, he even knows more than I do. So, as far as like, we talked about the links, I think they're being misinterpreted, they're not what they were presented to be. Whether or not the sheriff bought an ad with public funds, that's easy to find, but we don't have the authority to do that. Whether or not the comment was a co-conspirator and helped cover up that fact by deleting the information, because they said originally that it said it was paid for by the sheriff's department, then it was removed. Well, that implicates the comment as a co-conspirator, because they didn't come to us and say, hey, the sheriff's department paid for this ad. No, they just deleted that information. That's what the implication is. So,
Do you know that we deleted that information?
no, I don't.
Yeah, you don't.
But if we had a hearing, darn tootin', I'm gonna mention that.
Sure.
And so
I
now
think
the
it's part
implication
of it.
is that the comment helped out.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that, because we're not investigators. We didn't look at the information. And I don't think it's right for us to help implicate or to make it look like, because.
We need to remain objective.
Exactly, so, and I don't think we can do that, because we don't have the authority. We can only take it so far, and then that's actually going to help propagate the rumor mill. Cause we can only take it so far, and then everybody else is gonna run with that. And that might be what the original intent is, I don't know, but,
Well, to clarify, when I said I thought we should do the public hearing, I was basing that on past conversations in the meetings that you didn't feel like there was enough evidence that we had. So that's why I said, because I thought that was where I was headed, that you didn't think there was enough evidence, so that's why I was saying we owe it to continue to get the evidence.
and those discussions happened very early on in the process.
So that was why I
None
made
of
my
us knew
comment.
anything about
I
what-
mean, that's why I said, I don't think it's ready to send to the prosecutor, because if we're not all in agreement that there's enough evidence, then why would you send it?
Right.
But if you're believing that the evidence is sufficient in order to turn it over, then I would agree with that.
If nothing else comes of this entire thing positive, we learned how we've developed a procedure for accepting complaints, an official procedure or policy. And I have learned a ton. So we now know what because when I was first asked to do this, I tried to find information about what our duties were and how far we could go, and I'm not an attorney, so I read through that stuff and I try to figure it out, but it's all Greek. It may as well be. So, do you have anything further to add on?
Well, and you know, I'm here kind of temporary,
I
I'm
understand.
filling in for Sandy, so, but,
Last time she gets to leave, huh?
Poor Roger.
but, you know, just my opinion, if you got some evidence, it should be turned over to somebody that settle it.
Right.
Either right or wrong, or prove it or not prove it, and leave it up to them, and this is what we found, and, you know, it just needs to be settled, I guess, that's all I know, turned over to somebody.
And in the beginning, we thought that we were where the buck stopped. We thought that we had to figure all this out and make that decision. But after discussing the tort and the process and everything with the attorney, he said, you don't even have the authority to do that. So, I would make a motion that we refer the matter with the evidence in its entirety to the prosecutor for review. If he so chooses to refer it to a special prosecutor due to a conflict of interest, my understanding is that the sheriff kind of works for the prosecutor, and he's one of the defendants in the complaint. So maybe the prosecutor would want to refer it on, but that's his choice, not ours.
Would that also then preclude his detective from investigating? If the detective is under the prosecutor and the prosecutor is recusing himself, or I would think that would preclude that entire office from,
Possibly.
that would be what I would envision, is that